If you're anything like me and you grew up in the early 2000s, you're probably familiar with Webkinz or was at least around for when it was happening. Personally, for me, when I was younger, I loved playing on the computer. It was just the best thing in the world to me. iSpooky Mansion, Club Penguin, Miniclip, oh my god. Back then though, there weren't really a lot of games that were trying to cross over between the digital world and the physical world. There were a few kind of circulating, but none of them did it to the scale and the insanity that Webkinz did. It kind of feels like a fever dream.
You don't have any cash, man? Come on, don't lie, man. I think you're lying.
To be honest, I want to look back at things with more of like a fresh perspective and not just as a kid who liked stuffed animals and the internet. So if you're down for that, get in, because we're going. We're zooming.
There's stuffed animals that you can put on the internet and play with them.
Some schools, believe it or not, are actually banning them, calling them a distraction.
The wheel of wow!
So before we completely embark on this journey, we need to understand the context in which Webkinz fell out of a coconut tree. And in order to do that, we first need to talk about neopets. We do need to talk about neopets. Neopets launched in 1999 with the main game mechanic focusing on virtual pet care. The basic mechanics of the game were you'd have your own neopet to take care of with games and an in-game economy. Overall, Neopets was successful. And by 2005, Neopets had over 35 million users and 4 billion page views per month, which is insane. That is insane, especially since the majority of the users were 14 years or younger. And this essentially kind of showed that there was a huge market of kids who liked virtual pet care. And one company in particular saw this and saw an opportunity. Ganz is a Canadian soft toy and home decor company. Alright, they make home decor? Some Hallmark shit. Founded by Samuel Ganz, was born in 1928, and he was a survivor of the Holocaust. To go from Holocaust to Webkinz is a jump. And came to Canada with his brother in 1948. And by 1950, he started Ganz Bros Toys with one doll, which I tried to find a picture of. I'm not quite sure if this is it. I think it might be, but I don't know. The company continued to grow and expanded into the giftware industry. And in 1990, the company had changed into what we are familiar with now, being known as Ganz. So, flash forward to the year 2003. The Ganz company is creating a new plush line trying to compete with their competitors. And they were looking for a way to advertise the toys. And they wanted to try and stay away from TV marketing. And as they're looking for new ways to advertise this toy, in comes Carl, who eventually became the creative director of Webkinz. Carl joined, and according to his LinkedIn, in March in 2004. He came in with a background in interactive experiences for children's toys. And what company do you think that Carl, our boy Carl here, had just been researching and investigating? You guessed it, that's right, it's Neopets. It's Neopets. Carl was researching Neopets. And so he knew that there was something special going on over there. Ganz went all in to create an online site for their plush toys. And by 2005, the site was live.
What's the coolest thing about Webkinz? So many pets to choose from. Contest! Decorating my pet's room. The secret code that unlocks Webkinz World.
The coolest thing is everything Webkinz.
Get a parent's permission before going online. Each sold separately.
The success that Webkinz was getting was astronomical. Each plush had a tag on it, and the tag had a code that when you made an account for Webkinz, you'd put the code in, and suddenly, now your pet isn't just this physical toy you have, but you can see it on the computer as well. And that was mind-blowing. It had to have been around like 2006 when I played Webkinz for the first time, and I remember being so into it. And if you were playing Webkinz in this era, you should understand this. they didn't sell Webkinz at like major retail stores. So the only place that you could buy them were like your local gift stores. You'd have to go to like the Hallmark store at your local mall and find the one rack right in there that was selling Webkinz. As a kid, I was so in it, I didn't even realize how big and popular it had become. So what did they call it? Webkinz Mania. Also, crack for kids. There were clothes you could buy for your Webkinz. There were gems you could buy. There were trading cards. There were Webkinz. There were Littlekins. So much stuff. Just like neopets, as we had kind of talked about at the beginning of this, people were concerned about the amount of time kids were spending on the internet. Teachers and parents were starting to protest. For me personally, it wasn't just like all video game, all plush. Like, I think that's what made it so fun as a kid, was to have that 50-50 process. Because in a way, it reflected the culture that we were coming into. A space where people needed to exist, both in a virtual space and a physical space. Webkinz kind of showed that I could exist in those two spaces and still be myself. And I really appreciate that looking back. Webkinz continued to do well, but was never totally able to capture the same phenomenon that it did in its initial release. Kids are a hard market. It's hard to keep them engaged, and you have so much competition. It makes sense. And what they ended up doing was transitioning to their own desktop application. And within that same year, Webkinz also launched Webkinz Next.
The same Webkinz you've known for years. And now, there's more of us to love. Now, there's another way to play Webkinz in 3D with exciting new pets and features, including babies. And our new plush pets come with codes for both games. Webkinz Next is here to play, and Classic is here to stay.
I think it looks weird. Because it doesn't look new. Like when I think like new generation Webkinz, it's not that. This looks like an early 2000s Wii game. I don't know who... I'm going to assume that kids around the globe love it. And that's all that matters, right? For the Webkinz Next, it looks like they're totally changing the design of them. They look really familiar to me. I don't know if I've seen them, maybe just didn't recognize that they were Webkinz, or if they just look really similar to another type of toy that I've seen before. So while I was editing this video, I actually ended up finding the toy that this reminded me of, and I took a video of it. It's them. These are the toys I've seen. I don't know who's copying who, but that's the same toy. Webkinz success continued till about the early 2010s. There were a lot of other companies that had come in to try and profit off of the formula that Webkinz had cultivated. Webkinz had moved to be available in retail stores, which might have impacted the exclusivity feeling that Webkinz had, kind of being in these random gift stores. I think there's a lot of possibilities for how Webkinz might have fallen off. I think one of them having to be just how quickly internet changes and also how quickly kids grow up. Kids move on quickly, and if something isn't continuously grabbing their attention, it can be hard to have an audience of kids stay with you that whole time. I think Webkinz is always going to be special to all of us who played it back in the day. It's always going to be fun to look back and reminisce about the things that we grew up with and that impacted our lives and evidently made us the people that we are today. So, thanks for watching. If you enjoyed it, leave a like, why don't ya? And I'll see you next time. Bye!